You ever meet someone who swears the world is out to get them, like they stub their toe and suddenly it's, the universe hates me? Meanwhile, someone else goes through the same thing and just laughs it off, like life's some kind of sitcom, same world, same events, completely different realities. Here's the thing. Your reality isn't what's happening to you. It's how you process what's happening to you. And the wild part? You've been running on autopilot this entire time. You didn't choose your first beliefs about the world. You didn't pick how your brain reacts to failure, success, or awkward small talk at parties. That was all programmed into you by your family, by society, by some random thing your teacher said in 3rd grade that somehow stuck with you. And now, it's shaping your entire existence. But here's where it gets weird. If reality was as fixed as we think it is, then everyone would see things the same way. But we don't. And that should make you wonder, what if everything you thought was real was actually just a reflection of your own perception? Now, if your brain just twitched a little, good. That means you're waking up to something most people never even question. Because if you can change how you see reality, you can change everything. And it's easier than you think. There's an old experiment psychologists love to talk about. They took a bunch of people, put them in a room, and flashed a series of words on a screen. But here's the twist. Before the words appeared, the participants were quickly shown a random image, too fast for their conscious mind to notice. Some saw a picture of a smiling baby. Others saw a car crash. When they were asked what emotions they felt after reading the words, the results were bizarre. The people who saw the smiling baby, they felt warmth, nostalgia, even hope. The ones who saw the car crash, they felt tension, unease. Some even felt like something bad was about to happen. Same words, same room, different realities. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. If tiny, unconscious things like that can shape our reality, what do you think is happening with the thousands of influences you've absorbed since childhood? Think about the way you interpret silence. One person sees it as peace. Another sees it as rejection. Some people hear rain and feel cozy. Others feel restless. What about success? Some people think it's luck. Others think it's pure effort. But none of these are absolute truths. They're just filters your brain put in place without asking you. And these filters, they dictate everything. The people you attract, the opportunities you notice, the things you dismiss as not for you. Reality isn't out there. It's constructed in here. And that's why two people can live entirely different lives, even when they start from the same place. But here's the best part. Once you start seeing the code behind the illusion, you can rewrite it. There's a story about a man who was wrongfully imprisoned for nearly 2 decades. His name? Brian Banks. A rising football star in high school, Banks had his whole future ahead of him. A scholarship to USC, dreams of the NFL, and an unstoppable drive. Then, out of nowhere, his entire life shattered. He was accused of something he didn't do. No evidence, no proof, just a claim. And with that, he was thrown into 6 years of prison and nearly a decade of parole. And here's where it gets interesting. Years later, the person who accused him admitted she made the whole thing up. She even confessed on tape. His conviction was overturned. His name was cleared. But that's not the part that will shock you. What's shocking is how Brian Banks reacted to it all. He didn't waste a second of his life being angry. He didn't let 6 stolen years define him. When people asked him how he wasn't furious, he said something that flips reality on its head. I never lost my freedom because my mind was always mine. Think about that for a second. If a man who was physically trapped for years can feel free, what does that say about the rest of us? Because let's be honest, we live in a world where people with complete freedom still feel trapped. Trapped by their fears, trapped by their past, trapped by opinions, expectations, and thoughts that aren't even their own. But what if none of it was real? What if the only reason you feel stuck, lost, or uncertain is because you've unknowingly been carrying a prison with you. Not one made of bars and chains, but one made of beliefs. The way you think, the things you accept as normal, the invisible rules you follow without even realizing it. Because here's something most people never question. Who told you what's possible for you? Who decided your limits? Who convinced you that life has to be a certain way? Who made the rules you've been living by? Because if someone else programmed those beliefs into you, can't you rewrite them? This is where reality gets strange. Because the moment you stop blindly accepting the limits you were given, reality starts bending in ways you never imagined. The only question is, are you willing to see it? Alright, so let's really break this down, because this is where most people get stuck. You were handed a script for life before you even knew how to read it. From the moment you were a kid, you were told how the world works. You were given labels, rules, and expectations. Most of them you never agreed to, but somehow they shaped your reality anyway. Think about school. They tell you to sit down, be quiet, follow the rules. You're taught there's a right way to do things and a wrong way, and if you step outside that, you're failing. But who made those rules? Who decided what success even looks like? Now fast forward to adulthood. You're expected to play the game, get a job, buy a house, pay your bills, be responsible, and don't ask too many questions. But what happens if you do? What happens if one day you stop and realize, wait a minute, none of this actually feels real? And that's where the discomfort kicks in. Because the second you start questioning the script, you start to see that it's not actually yours. It was given to you by your parents, who told you what's right, based on what they were taught. Society, which shaped your beliefs about what's normal and what isn't. Your experiences, which, let's be real, were often filtered through things other people told you were true. But here's the thing. Your brain is constantly bending reality to fit the script you were given. And if that script is limiting, if it's full of beliefs like life is hard, you have to struggle to be successful, this is just the way things are, then guess what? Reality will keep proving that script right. Not because it's true, but because you were taught to believe it. And once you see that, everything changes. Because if everything you think is possible is just a set of instructions someone else handed you, why not rewrite them? Why not question everything? Why not ask yourself, what else have I just been accepting as truth, when in reality, it was just someone's opinion? Because here's where most people mess up. They assume reality is fixed, that life has one path, that things have to be a certain way. But that's only true if you keep believing it. The moment you realize you were given a script, not a rule book, you stop playing by rules that were never real to begin with. And that's when life stops feeling like something happening to you and starts becoming something you're in control of. Now let's go even deeper, because this is where reality starts bending in ways most people never notice. You see, the mind isn't just a passenger in your life, it's the architect. Most people think reality is something they wake up to, something external, something they just exist in. But what if it's the opposite? What if reality is responding to you? Not in some abstract, feel-good kind of way, but in a literal, measurable way. Think about this. When you enter a new room full of strangers, before you even say a word, people already have an impression of you. They're picking up on tiny details, your energy, your posture, your facial expressions, even the micro movements you don't realize you're making. But here's the crazy part. You are doing the same thing to the world. Your brain is constantly scanning, filtering, and shaping what you perceive. Let's say two people wake up tomorrow morning. One person expects the world to be hostile, unfair, full of obstacles. The other wakes up expecting opportunities, insights, and connections. They both walk outside into the same world, same weather, same city, same conditions, and yet their experiences will be completely different. Why? Because their brains will literally filter out anything that doesn't match their expectations. If you believe people are rude, your brain will highlight every small act of rudeness. If you believe the universe is full of opportunities, suddenly you'll start noticing open doors where others see dead ends. This isn't some mystical law of attraction. It's your reticular activating system, the part of your brain designed to filter reality so that you don't get overwhelmed by all the information flying at you. So what does that mean? It means that what you assume is reality is just a reflection of what you believe to be true. And that's where things get really weird. Because if the reality you experience is shaped by your mind, then what happens when you change your mind? What happens when you stop seeing life as something that's happening to you and start realizing that you are interacting with reality in ways you've never noticed? You've probably experienced this before, even if you didn't realize it. Ever had a moment where you were thinking about someone and they randomly called you? Or you were suddenly drawn to a book, a video, a person that ended up changing the way you see everything? Or maybe you just had a gut feeling about something that turned out to be 100% right. That's not random. That's your brain interacting with reality at a level that most people ignore. And the reason they ignore it, because nobody ever told them to pay attention to it. The biggest illusion isn't that reality is an illusion. It's that you're separate from it. But once you realize that, you can start bending reality in your favor. All right, now let's go even deeper, because this is where the illusion starts to break down. Most people assume their five senses are showing them the world as it is, that what they see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is an accurate reflection of reality. But that's not what's happening. Your senses are not designed to show you reality. They're designed to show you just enough to keep you alive. Let's talk about something wild, your blind spots. Not metaphorical blind spots. I mean the actual blind spots in your vision. You have a literal hole in your visual field where your optic nerve connects to your eye. Right now, as you're watching this, there's a gap in your vision, but you don't notice it. Why? Because your brain fills in the missing details. It takes an educated guess based on surrounding information and projects a version of reality that makes sense. In other words, your brain is making things up, constantly. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. It's not just your vision, it's your entire perception of reality. Your mind is filtering, editing, and reconstructing what you experience in real time. And the scariest part, you'll never know what's missing. Now, let's take this a step further. If your mind is actively shaping your experience, how much of your belief system is doing the same thing? Let's say you grew up believing something about yourself. Maybe you were told you weren't smart, weren't lucky, weren't attractive, weren't worthy. Your brain absorbed that idea. And over time, it filtered reality to match that belief. It showed you proof, a time you got rejected, a time you failed at something, a time someone ignored you. It skipped over the moments where you succeeded, where someone noticed you, where things went your way. Just like the blind spot in your vision, you never saw what was missing. But here's the kicker. The moment you change your belief, the moment you stop accepting that as reality, your brain starts showing you a different world. And that's when things get really strange. Because reality isn't just something you observe, it's something you participate in. You are constantly co-creating your experience, whether you realize it or not. Ever notice how two people can go through the exact same event, but walk away with completely different stories? One sees it as proof that life is unfair. The other sees it as a challenge that made them stronger. Same event, two different realities. So the question is, which reality are you choosing to see? Because once you realize how much your own mind is shaping the world around you, you stop playing by the rules that were handed to you. And that's when reality starts shifting in ways you never expected. By now, you're starting to see it. Reality isn't just something you live in. It's something that's constantly being shaped, filtered, and reconstructed by your own mind. But here's the next big realization. It's not just your perception that's being controlled. It's your attention. Ever notice how, the second you start focusing on something, whether it's a fear, a goal, or even a random idea, it suddenly starts showing up everywhere. You start thinking about a new car, and now you see it everywhere. You hear about a concept once, and suddenly it's popping up in conversations, books, and videos. That's not coincidence. That's how reality works. Your attention is currency. Every single thing that dominates your thoughts expands in your awareness. The problem? Most people have zero control over what they focus on. They're constantly being pulled in 100 directions. News cycles telling them what to be outraged about. Social media telling them what's trending. Entertainment designed to keep them consuming instead of thinking. And the result? They're living in a reality created for them, instead of one they've chosen for themselves. But the second you reclaim your attention, the second you start deciding what actually deserves your focus, everything shifts. You stop reacting, you stop chasing, you stop feeling like life is just something happening to you, because suddenly you realize you were the architect all along. Now, most people won't reach this point. They'll hear these ideas, maybe agree with them, but then go right back to their usual patterns. But you don't have to. If this made you think, even just for a second, that means you're already waking up. Now the question is, what will you do with it? Drop a comment below, hit like, and if you're ready to go deeper, click here for the next video. Because once you see the truth, there's no turning back.